But before we get to the status of this state with 36 others monitoring rising coronavirus case rates, Dr. Anthony Fauci delivered another dire warning before the Senate today in response to Senator Elizabeth Warren about the still rising death toll and where the nation may be headed.
I can't make an accurate prediction, but it is going to be very disturbing. I will guarantee you that, because when you have an outbreak in one part of the country, even though in other parts of the country they're doing well, they are vulnerable. We can't just focus on those areas that are having the surge. It puts the entire country at risk. Clearly, we are not in total control right now. We're going in the wrong direction.
Because of that, at least 17 states seeing a spike in coronavirus cases are either pausing or rolling back reopening plans. But here in Massachusetts, no new deaths announced today for the first time in months, and case rates down 93% since mid-April. Governor Baker is indicating some cautious optimism.
If you look at the testing data, which is up dramatically from where it was 60 or 90 days ago, and you look at the number of positives, they're down dramatically from where they were 60 or 90 days ago. I would call that progress. I don't want anybody to think for a minute that it's time to let down your guard. There's plenty of evidence, not just around this country, but around the globe, of places where people have let down their guard and the virus has come roaring back.
Still, the governor is moving forward with relaxing some rules, announcing today that anyone coming into Massachusetts from one of the surrounding New England states, as well as Jersey and New York, will be exempt from the state's 14-day quarantine advisory that's been in place since late March. The hope is that'll help boost some tourism, which many businesses here rely on heavily. Chief among them, restaurants, which are now in their second week of permitted indoor opening. But while some are welcoming the additional customers after having struggled through months of takeout and delivery-only service and then weeks of outdoor-only dining, others have concerns. As one Provincetown restaurant owner wrote in The Atlantic back in May, what hadn't occurred to me while we were redesigning our space and our process for handling orders was that a small fraction of customers would object. The precautions that keep customers safe also inconvenience them. Getting everyone enough ketchup takes longer. We assumed that customers would understand, but not everyone did. The title of that piece was, "I'm a chef in a seaside town. I'm not an epidemiologist." And the man who wrote it is Rob Anderson, a chef and co-owner of the Canteen Restaurant. He joins me now along with Nia Grace. She's the owner of Darryl's Corner Bar and Kitchen in the South End. Nia, good to see you. Rob, thanks so much for being here. Good to meet you.
Thanks for having us.
So phase 2 allowed outdoor dining and now indoor dining. How's it going for you down there on the Cape, Rob?
Well, crowds are coming back to the Cape like the pandemic isn't happening. We're at about 50%, I'd say, what we usually are in the summer, but 50% of a summer crowd is still a lot of people. So we're doing outdoor dining at our restaurant.
And you're not quite ready, Nia, for either, right? Outdoor, indoor, not until after the 4th when the cocktail terrace opens, yes?
Absolutely. Right now, we're continuing on with our takeout. We have actually paused our service for this week as well as last weekend, just so that we could really get to some of those adjustments that Rob is speaking about as well.
You know, Rob, I mentioned the governor said if you're from one of the 7, neighboring, whatever you want to call them, states in the region, no more quarantine. Obviously, Provincetown is a haven for tourists. Does that help you or no?
Well, it brings a lot of people into town, but it also, I think, it threatens the community's health and safety as well. So on one hand, I'm happy that we are able to reopen, that we're making some money. I can pay my bills this month. But I'm also very concerned about the health of my family, my staff, and our community.
You know, you can detect a little anxiety in Rob's voice there, I'm sure, Nia. Are you worried about the anxiety of customers? I'm sure you saw the poll, a Globe, WGBH Suffolk poll saying more than half of people, this is about a week ago, are not quite ready to go back into restaurants. Does that make you anxious, make you nervous?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, me, myself, I'm kind of anxious about going back into restaurants, but I venture out because this is a part of it as we go through it. And so we have customers who have given us feedback who still feel comfortable ordering takeout. would consider outdoor dining, but haven't committed to it yet. And then, they're still waiting. There are some people who are still waiting for a vaccine. So.
Which is a long way off, even if Fauci's, quote, cautious optimism is right. Rob, I'm laughing because your great piece in The Atlantic, I was talking to Nia about, are customers too anxious? You open your piece with a story about a customer who is anything but anxious about coming into your restaurant. Could you retell that story quickly, please?
Yeah, so in the middle of the pandemic, I walked outside of the restaurant. We had closed off the restaurant itself. We had put a table in front of the doors, both to act as a barrier, and it was a place for us to drop off curbside pickup deliveries and groceries. And I walked out of the restaurant, and there was a lady. She was an older woman, could be my grandma's age, and she was climbing over the table to get into the restaurant. And I had to sort of say, whoa, that's not how you do it. And she was like, well, then how do I get inside? And she had missed the point that you don't get inside. That was the whole point of the table. So.
You went on to say in the next paragraph, I'm not laughing about what I'm about to say, I'm laughing at the story, that you were terrified by the whole prospect of this thing. And that was like a month ago. Are you still terrified, or are you adjusting to whatever this new reality is?
No, I'm more terrified now. I mean, so.
Why?
Because, our restaurant is filled. And again, I'm happy about that. We're welcoming people. We're being as safe as we can. But our town is filled. 2 days ago in Provincetown, a restaurant owner asked somebody to put on a mask, and the guest punched him in the stomach. So on top of having to deal with all these extra safety precautions, on top of being so stressed out and understaffed out here on the Cape, we are expected to enforce safety precautions, and then a lot of folks are respectful and want to be helpful, but there's a small percentage of people who don't want to be and want to prove a point. And 2 days ago, we learned what can happen. A guy got punched. It was an 80-year-old restaurant owner who got punched in the stomach. And what is that? So what do I have? What's going to happen in the next 2 months? Am I going to get punched in the face? I don't know. Maybe.
So what's your next piece going to be titled? I'm not an epidemiologist, nor am I a cop. Is that the next one? So,
exactly.
Nia, when you hear that story, can you relate to that?
That sounds very crazy to me, and so I'm sorry that gentleman had to go through that. I feel like we think about those kind of times, maybe at the end of the night, and it's been a great night, and maybe too many drinks were flowing. Not in the middle of the day where we're talking about social safety for everyone. And so, no, I couldn't imagine that being the response. But I do know that it's happening. I'm watching people kind of resist in certain spaces as well. Absolutely.
I know you're still in a delivery and takeout mode, but one of the, I think, positive things that's emerged from this nightmare, the dual nightmares going on, or maybe the triple nightmares in this country, is there's been a lot of urging of people to patronize black-owned businesses. And there have been stories about black-owned restaurants in Boston. I'm sure you've read them. I know you're working with some of their restaurant owners. Do you think the walk is going to be as strong as the talk? Meaning, when you reopen, are people going to come to you not just because of your reputation and the quality of what you provide, but also because they want to help black-owned businesses?
Yeah, I've got to say that the community support is overwhelming from people that you know and do not know, from your neighbors and far and wide. That's with the help of some of these third-party delivery services who are promoting and other, city agencies, et cetera. Do I think that everyone is going to walk as strong as they've been talking through this? I can only hope. I do know that at times people, are really in the moment, and when that moment passes, so does their support. I can only hope that this lasts longer than a lot of other movements.
So, Nia, you're the relatively new owner of a multi-decade, 60-plus-year-old institution. Rob, your place has been open, I guess, fewer than 10 years. Starting with you, Rob, are you optimistic that you can survive the coronavirus?
I don't know. We're going to see how these next 2 months go. So for us, we have to make enough money in the summer. We're a year-round business, so we have to make enough money in the summer to also carry us over into the winter. So I doubt that we'll be able to make enough money to be a year-round business this year. We'll be strong enough to open up again next year, but what's left to be seen is whether or not we can provide that service throughout the year, which we think is a really important service.
What's your confidence level, Nia?
I'll say this, just to the numbers part, we lost 50% of our revenue for the year already. And that's from the past 3 months and the next 3 months, 50%. And much like Rob, we're a year-round business. I'm hopeful, and I'm a fighter, so I plan on being here, but I'm hopeful.
Well, I hope both of your hope is realized. Rob Anderson, Nia Grace, good luck with your work, and thanks so much for spending some time with me.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks for having us.